This week, how safe are modern cruise liners? This week on Fast Track, how do you train the crew of a modern cruise ship following a string of recent sea disasters? We're at a training facility in Holland to find out.
This is $10 million worth of technology in here. It's a highly sophisticated 3D simulation.
We head to North Africa to explore a summer art festival with a difference in Morocco. And we're in Albania, where one man is trying to turn back the clock to preserve age-old traditions. Welcome to Fast Track, 30 minutes of travel news, escape and inspiration with me, Fiona Foster. This week, coming from London's Transport Museum, which is celebrating 150 years of the world's oldest underground railway. But we start today's show with a very different mode of transport, cruise liners. It may be that up until recently, when you were booking a cruise, the last thing on your mind was safety. But that may have changed since the deaths of 32 people in the sinking of the Costa Concordia off the coast of Italy last year. The captain of the stricken ship is currently on trial, and the case has raised questions about the safety of modern cruise liners. We sent Anna Holligan to a special training centre in Holland to find out just what lessons had been learned from last year's disaster.
It was a shipwreck that generated a global response. More than 4,000 people were on board this 114,000-ton vessel. Their dream cruise devastated off the coast of Giglio. It's feared the Costa Concordia disaster could be damaging to the wider multi-million-dollar cruise industry. Businesses are trying to convince customers that lessons have been gleaned from what happened in Italy, and many are sending their employees back to the classroom. An industrial estate in the eastern city of Almere is the rather unlikely location for what the owners describe as a revolutionary training facility.
Maritime experts here have invented a new immersive, interactive and innovative new system which they say could prevent another Costa Concordia style disaster.
Okay, we're gonna be put 10 knots and then once we pass the breakwater...
Port control, this is Sea Smart 1.
Aft the mooring station bridge.
Right now we can see a cohesive team working together with the navigator driving the ship and the co-navigator cross-checking all the actions of the navigator. The whole thing up there is watched by the captain and the pilot.
What do you think, Mr. Powell?
Absolutely.
Yes.
6 knots sounds fine.
This looks a bit like a gallery you would have in a television studio. What are these guys here doing?
They are the ones who operate the whole scenario. So they will create the weather, the other ships, they will communicate with the bridge team, and they are kind of a god in this simulator. They create everything that's happening here.
This is $10 million worth of technology in here. It's a highly sophisticated 3D simulation. But apparently we shouldn't be distracted by all of this technology because the secret to this system lies in the culture and philosophy in this control room.
I'm ready to take the control on the starboard wing. Taking control on the starboard wing. Taking control of propulsion.
The old traditional system
there was to be one-man operation where the captain was actually, especially in the most challenging during the arrival, departure, was driving the ships and nobody was challenging his decision. Now this system creates a safety net on the bridge where if one person made a mistake, if one person dropped the ball, there is a safety net where another person takes that ball and an incident is prevented. 5-0 and closing.
Stefan, we are approaching New York here. Teach me, how do I sail a cruise ship?
Yes, as you see, you have New York out there. You have the location of your ship here. And we need now to change course to port. And it's not so difficult. You just use this joystick and you move it to port, to the left. And the ship will then turn to left. Stop. And that's it. Excellent.
This programme has been running for 4 years, but there's been a remarkable increase in the numbers of maritime students signing up since the sinking of the Costa Concordia. This year there were 3,000. Next year they're expecting more than 4,000.
So rate of turn coming off?
Rate of turn coming off.
Yes.
It's really realistic, and we have the opportunity to learn and also share information between the other officer of the other company as well. But the most important is to have the opportunity to drive the ship.
Okay, I have a depth alarm just going off now. In this new system, you are allowed to be a co-navigator, or even some situations you're actually a navigator. So it gives you a lot more experience. I think it also helps that there's a lot of positive feedback.
So how safe is the cruise ship industry? Statistically speaking, cruising in a commercial vessel is one of the safest ways to travel. But the state-of-the-art Costa Concordia was owned by the Carnival Corporation. It's the world's most successful operator with more than 50% market share. The fact this should have been safe could make passengers feel more vulnerable at sea. The UN body responsible for regulating the global shipping trade is the International Maritime Organization. It's conducting an investigation and reviewing the current safety standards. Images like these are hard to forget. Now it's essential for companies to demonstrate they're putting the lessons into practice for the future, to reassure those who wish to cruise the seas that they won't have to worry about what lies beneath or the capabilities of those on board.
Anna Holligan reporting from Holland. And do let us know your views on that one, if your perceptions of the safety of going on a cruise has changed since the Costa Concordia. Our email address, as ever, is fasttrack@bbc.com, and we'll try and include as many of your views as possible in a future programme. Now though, let's have a look at what else has been making headlines in the travel world around the globe this week.
Norwegian, Europe's third largest low-cost airline, is set to launch 3 new transatlantic routes. The carrier will soon fly from London Gatwick to New York, Fort Lauderdale and Los Angeles. The company also plans to expand into the Asian market in the future.
We have a fairly large base at Gatwick on our short-haul route, so we fly to 25 different cities in and out of Gatwick. So it was natural for us to come after with the long-haul operation.
If you're booked on Transavia to Egypt's Sharm el-Sheikh this week, you might not be flying there at all. The Dutch airline has cancelled all flights to the region because of the threat of a militant rocket attack. The carrier, which is part of the KLM group, has postponed services to the popular destination for at least 2 weeks, but has said it will assess the situation daily. Dozens of visitors to Shiqi Park in China had to be rescued from the water earlier this week after a footbridge collapsed. Surveillance video captured the chaotic scenes in Zhejiang City, which happened as people were crossing to board the Sima ferry. Park employees conducted a swift rescue operation, with 10 people sent to a local hospital for treatment. And finally, Melbourne Airport saw a rather unexpected passenger this week. An injured kangaroo bypassed the doctor and hopped its way into a pharmacy after it had been hit by a car earlier in the day.
Yeah, Johnson didn't believe me.
No, I didn't.
But,
I was behind the counter, and then Lisa just said, "Oh, there's a kangaroo in the shop," and I'm like, "Oh," and I just kept on doing what I was doing, sort of. So, yeah, I thought it was a bit of a joke.
Wildlife volunteers managed to capture the injured animal before it was taken to a local vet for treatment.
Well, now you're up to date, we're going to take a short break. But when we come back, we're heading to North Africa for a bit of graffiti Moroccan style. And why this woman is heading back to the country her grandfather fled almost 70 years ago.
They wanted to kill him, quite simply, wanted to kill him.
Welcome back. Next today, we're heading to the small Moroccan town of Asila, which is said to be over 3,500 years old. In most respects, it's a traditional seaside resort and not the kind of place you'd associate with street art. But once a year, the place comes alive with graffiti artists making their own personal mark on the town's walls, and all with the blessing of the local authority. We sent Sylvia Smith to investigate.
For most of the year, the small seaside town of Azila is nothing more than a very quiet fishing port, with a nicely preserved old medina, ramparts and a lookout tower to keep hostile invaders out. The Phoenicians built the tower to defend the walled city against foreign incursions. But once a year, there's another sort of invasion. Each summer, artists from all over the world descend on Azila, and they have one objective in mind: to paint its whitewashed walls with abstract designs, spray-painted stories, and the art of calligraphy, bringing the usually tranquil streets alive.
I include the names of people in the city to involve them more in the painting, to have it like the daily diary of the people of Azila.
Walls, doors, schools, and even the pavements themselves get a splash of colour in the course of a week-long paint-in, with artists completely free to follow their creative instincts, to take them in any direction. And it all began 35 years ago with the mayor, Mohammed Ben Aissa, wanting to raise the rather dilapidated town out of its slumber-like state.
The wall painting project started exactly in 1978 with eminent painters and children. And the purpose was to give people the sense that the town is beautiful. And we told them, because of art, it can be even more beautiful.
A couple of older artists have been coming since year one and join in with the younger artists to create a group mural in the traffic-free town centre. Some painters select a special position, like this Spanish graffiti artist, recreating the life of the great Arab writer and traveller Ibn Battuta, who set sail from just down the coast. His spot is right next to the Atlantic.
We are using a very beautiful mural as a landmark to the Riyadh where we're staying, and it helps us navigate through the city.
Tourists come to enjoy some fresh air and a spot of culture. Moroccan and foreign artists are also invited to take part in an engraving workshop, the first in North Africa. Master printers from Europe lead the classes and teach how to create prints of everything imaginable, even popular English footballers. And over the years, everyone from Mohammed VI, the current king of Morocco, as a young boy, to international political figures, such as Senegalese President Léopold Sédar Senghor and French Prime Minister Dominique de Villepin. They've all been here. They come for the conferences and debates. Speakers address issues high on the political agenda, and since the Arab Spring took off, they've been especially lively, with many of the guests speaking passionately from personal experience. Reactions to the Arab Spring have also made an appearance in some of the murals and paintings, especially those by Syrians. The town's prospering, and newcomers have brought a certain chic to everything from the shops to the restaurant scene.
We came across Azila and we fell in love with it because of its art history over the last 35 years. It's getting more and more popular with people abroad, and because of its proximity to Tangier.
And it's not only art that the local people have a chance to enjoy out on the streets. In the evenings, bands entertain the crowd in the main square, and the Casbah literally rocks to live music. Pop songs from the Afro-Arab hit parade get the crowd on their feet. And then there's a taste of the traditional with Moroccan Gnawa music.
We are very proud to be the cleanest town in the kingdom. We are also very proud we have an open gallery throughout the year in the street. Lots of restaurants, cafes, commerce is doing very well. Income has improved because of culture and art.
The murals remain in place until the next summer, when they're whitewashed over for a fresh group of artists to come and start the whole process again.
Sylvia Smith on some of the artists making their mark in Morocco. Now we're ending today's programme in Albania, a country that was cut off from the rest of the world for decades by its leader Enver Hoxha, whose efforts to turn it into a workers' utopia left it isolated and on the verge of bankruptcy. Small wonder then that when the regime collapsed in 1989, some Albanians jumped at the chance to escape the country's problems by moving abroad. But some of the homes they left behind were centuries old, and now one man in the historic town of Gjirokastra has decided to try and track some of them down to persuade them that their family homes are worth preserving. Fast Track has been to meet him.
Gjirokastra is part of UNESCO list as far as World Heritage is regarded since 2005. It's an Ottoman, typical Ottoman architecture, well preserved. It includes three main elements: the castle, which is really a big one, the bazaar area and the residential areas. As you can see around, the challenge for preserving, for the conservation of the town is really a big one. We started the restoration of the roof, and you see that the roof is in a really bad situation. Even this building is abandoned from years by the owners. Fortunately, now a new owner has bought it and want to create a business in this building, a tourism accommodation. Here we'll see something very curious. It's an archaeological object almost. It's maybe 200 years old nail produced by blacksmiths of the time. And this profession is also disappearing. We have here only one blacksmith in Gjirokastra, and he's more than 70 years old. Part of the ceiling, it is really heavily decorated. Because of the leaking from the roof, part of it needs really big intervention of restoration. You'll see the combination of the stone with the wood. It's really very typical to have parts, different layers of wood, because they create stability. During the communist time, it was easier to preserve Gjirokastra because the state could command everything. Today is different. Some of the rules and regulations dealing with cultural heritage, with the restoration of historic buildings, are really not adopted properly. This is Baba Meto House, named after the family. It is one of the well-known families. Some people of this big family are living now in America. And to have a deal with them for restoration and revitalization of this building, we had to identify more than 60 of them, and to have 60 signatures in our contract, in our agreement. Sometimes they have lost the connection with each other. So it was a complicated process to identify, to find them, to contact them, and to convince them that this deal was really a win-win situation for everybody.
I am Bessa Baba Meto, the daughter of Pulum Baba Meto and the granddaughter of Rasim Baba Meto. My grandfather Rasim was a judge and a lawyer. He had a political nature, and they wanted to kill him. Quite simply, wanted to kill him. So my father, in order to preserve his father's life, left for the United States in 1944. As they were in fear of the communist regime, the first time I came, it was extremely emotional because it wasn't done. It was not intact, and I thought I was trying to picture my father here.
Gjirokastra has a lot of things to offer to visitors. Not only stones, not only architecture, but also intangible heritage, very interesting popular traditions. The tourism potential is really big. Hopefully the worst of Gjirokastra is over now.
One man's battle to preserve a little of Albania's heritage. And that's it for this week. But do try and join us again next week when Rajan will be in Singapore. He's going off the usual tourist trail to show you parts of the island state you may never have seen before.
Singapore is a very small country that is never short on ambition. In recent years, it's been working hard to lose its unwelcome, boring tag and to reinvent itself as a popular and aspirational destination.
Looks like a goodie, so do join us for that if you can. In the meantime, don't forget you can find out more about our trips and travel features on our website, bbc.com/fasttrack, and we're also on social media, so why not check out our Facebook, Twitter and Pinterest pages. But until next time, from me, Fiona Foster, and the rest of the Fast Track team here at London's Transport Museum, thanks for joining us and goodbye.